all the games I used to play in my younger, wilder days. The game of clubs and tees had never crossed my mind. But after some discussion with my closest, dearest friends, I decided that I'd give it one good try. But that was my first big mistake. I've already hit 3.
Welcome into the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast. My name is Andrew Petters. I'm here with my partner in crime, Joe Nicely, senior editor of the golf department at Rotoballer.com. Welcome in, Joe. It's Heartbreak City, not Heart Play City, Heartbreak City. And we're not just talking about golf. We're talking about our Titans. Well, not really our Titans, but that's our B team. Titans going down yesterday in a heartbreaker, up 10-0. Get 17 unanswered put on them and lose in the playoffs. Very hard to watch. Very hard to watch, but it's okay. Let's talk about golf. Tournament champions did not disappoint at all. We really didn't get the big names. We had JT up there, but it was kind of what we thought it was going to be as far as scoring wise, mid-20s. It's going to be in the mid-20s almost every year. Did you have any takeaways from this past weekend?
Yeah, it was kind of a heartbreaker for me too, man. We touched on him here last week. Colin Morikawa was really heavy on him. Actually had a bet riding on him. Looked really good going into Sunday, and he just couldn't get it going on Sunday. But shout out to you, man. You kind of tossed out Harris English and Daniel Berger last week, and you said nobody would be surprised if these guys are in the top 5 fighting for it or even win it. So great call there, man. Harris English took it down. One of the most consistent players of 2020. What we kind of always worry about when rostering is if he can win tournaments. And certainly had a huge win against an elite field last week. Has played great over the past year, and it kind of all came together for him. So huge win for English. Joaquin Neiman played extremely well. Another one of your calls last week. So you were all over things last week, my man.
Hey, it wasn't that hard last week to call somebody out when there's only 43 players in the field. If you name half of them, you're going to get a pretty good shot at calling them out. No, but, not surprised at all that those guys in that range were right there, because we said, I said, if you're filling your roster from the top down, you're probably not going to have any of these guys in your lineup, but you would be okay having all these guys in your lineup at the same time. So unfortunately, I probably went the other direction, but that's okay. I mean, I like to, most time I'm a value play, but I thought it was a top-down field last week with so little talent in the sixes. So, but, I mean, Joaquin Neiman, right there on the cusp of victory against it. I mean, it was a great field, great tournament. Saw a lot of low numbers. Unfortunately, like you said, our heart play of the week last week, Morikawa, did not couldn't get it together in the fourth round. I think he shot 8 under, 65.
I thought he was going to do it, man. I really did. He played great throughout the week and just never got on track Sunday. Not sure what happened, but just never got going. Never really gave himself a chance Sunday, but I really thought he was going to do it this week.
Yeah, I agree. The tournament just didn't disappoint Morikawa. Maybe the Saturday 65 kind of put him. It's hard to play back-to-back low rounds. I don't know. But, this week is going to be interesting. Moving on to the Sony Open. It's the first full field of the year, kind of, sort of. I mean, you got to think some families probably going on vacation. Almost everybody that played last week is in this week's field. I don't know. You want to get right into it, Joe?
Sure, man. Yeah, we can. We're ready. We got golf in 2021. Let's go,
right.
baby.
Golf in 2021. You have to help me with the name of the golf course, man. Wahallahi.
That one's on you, man. You're the course guy.
Wahallahi Country Club. I just totally screwed up. Honolulu, Hawaii. Roughly 7,000 yards, par 70. Interesting fact about this golf course: the nines are switched for the tournament. Obviously, it's normally a par 72. It's par 70 this year. 7,000 yards. That doesn't mean that. It's not a bomber course, like we're normally seeing. So, if you look down, and as far as the field goes, past champions, man, you see a lot of like good, solid golfers win this tournament. Not very many bombers at all. You see a lot of guys that can putt well, so you get the putter hot on a shorter course. What do you think about that as far as that strategy?
Yeah, for sure, man. I was actually watching the interview you did with Jason Gandy, and I hope you guys will check that out because I thought it was really, really interesting. You did a great job with him. And he was saying that the entire field's in play, and I think that's definitely true. This is one of those tracks we see a handful a year. We've talked about some recently, where every player in the field's in play. Nobody's discounting because of style. Length isn't a huge advantage here. It's kind of a placement golf course off the tee. These guys are aiming for a spot, and most people are going to be hitting their second shots from roughly the same area. Fairways are pretty tight. So yeah, man, kind of like you said, we're looking for that kind of grinder mold, fairways, greens, make some putts. Seen veterans win here, play really well. Shorter hitters can win here. Like I said, the whole field's in play, man, which from doing what we do in DFS kind of makes it tough. It's almost nice to be able to eliminate some certain styles on certain weeks, but that's not the case this week. Kind of the entire field's in play, man. That's what I'm rolling with this week. Looking for guys that can hit fairways, looking for guys with course experience. I feel like that's important on this golf course. Approach, we're looking for that. Kind of the 150 to 175 yard bucket is the one I'm highlighting this week. Like you said, only a couple par fives. There's 5 par fours from 400 to 450 and 5 par fours from 450 to 500. So that's 10 of your holes right there. Definitely want to look at those ranges, what guys do on that length hole. But yeah, man, it's kind of a classic golf course. We see it every single year, so we can lean on course history a little bit, and really excited to get into it. I can't hear you.
There you go. There we go, Joe. All right. So, yeah, let's get right into the tournament. So, first of all, I want to say, after talking to Jason last night, two of my probably 3 to 5 guys, I would say, before even looking at the field, before ever the numbers come out, they're at the top. Webb Simpson, Harry English. I feel like we see what Webb Simpson's had this breakout, over the last, say 2 years of showing his name needs to be up there with the big guys, even though he doesn't hit it like they do. He still needs to be there. But in reality, if you look on paper, Joe, Harry English, I know he won last week. I know Harrison English won last week. So I'm saying I'm giving a little bit of like Monday morning quarterback outlook on this. But on paper, the guy's got all the tools. Hits it a long way. Hits it straight, putts good, chips good, hits his driver good, hits his irons good. He's got everything that he could be. He's really like, I'll be honest, a little bit like Brooks Koepka before Brooks Koepka became the big game hunter. Maybe not as wild as far as, Brooks would shoot 68, 70, 78, 62. We see some of that out of Brooks back in the day, but we saw a lot. I feel like they have very similar games. Don't get me wrong. He's a little bit maybe more consistent than Brooks was at that time. So, he's got all the tools. I don't see talent-wise, he should be at the top of the level. Maybe this is going to be his breakout year 2021.
Yeah, you can argue he had a breakout year last year, man. Like I mentioned kind of at the top, he was certainly one of the most consistent golfers on the PGA Tour in 2020. And this is a guy, kind of to circle back around to what you were saying, this is a guy that was kind of pegged to be a star when he came out of the University of Georgia. I don't have his kind of career in front of me right now, but it seems like he won very early on tour. Then kind of lost his game, kind of fought it for a while. It's really a great story, man. Kind of found it at the beginning. Almost lost his tour card, I think, at the end of 2019. I think he had to go to the Korn Ferry Tour Finals to keep his tour card. And then to have the type of year that he had last year, so consistent, and then to come out and beat a field full of winners, elite players. Yeah, man, I think he's primed for a huge year, and I hope he can keep it going. He's a really interesting player, really solid player, and it just kind of felt like he wasn't going to go away last week. And this is another golf course that sets up really well for him. He's got 3 top 10s at the Sony and 8 career starts. So, we always are a little bit worried about taking a guy coming off a win, but Harris English has shown that he's super consistent over the past 12 to 18 months. So, certainly a guy you can look at again this week and going forward this year.
I agree. I agree. I mean, the top really is stacked at people that I know for a fact that Joe Nicely likes to play. So
I
let's just
love
go.
it, man. I can't. There's so many good ones up there. I can't make my mind up.
I really want to start out. I'm actually going to put. I know there's a pretty big variance, and but I'm gonna start out. Let's just start at Cam Smith and above. 96 to 11-1. I know it's a $1,500 variance on DraftKings, but that's kind of where I feel like I'm drawing the line here as your A players, if you would say. So we got Webb Simpson, Harrison English, Morikawa, Neiman, Matsuyama, who we completely whiffed on last week. Holy cow, could not be a bigger miss. Daniel Berger.
We're gonna touch on that here in a second.
Daniel Berger, absolute stud. Sunjay M, who we think is probably going to be a top 5 player this year. And Cam Smith, who has previous winner here. And this golf course sets up perfect for the guy that we define that's going to win this weekend. So there you go. Those guys, who do you like? Who you dislike? Do you like them all? Do you hate them all? Where you at?
Like them all, man. So much to like up there. Such consistent players. We don't have a JT in the field this week. We don't have a DJ. We don't have a Rom. So it makes a lot of sense that Webb's up there at the top. But even as much as we love Webb and these other guys, I don't think there's much debate that they're kind of a tier below that ultra elite top tier of like JT, DJ, guys like that. But there's a lot to like about them on this golf course, man. Webb's been super consistent here. 2 top 5s in his last 2 starts here, never missed a cut in any Sony start. So you have to love Webb. He just always shows up to play. Harris English, we touched on. He's an amazing player, played well here, fits the golf course, but he's coming off a win. Morikawa makes a ton of sense because he's such a strong iron player. But the 2 guys I like, man, I think you kind of touched on Daniel Berger and Sungjae M are my top 2 right now. M's a little bit below 10, but I think you can argue he could be priced right there with Berger. These guys are so consistent. This course sets up so well for them. Daniel Berger's never missed a cut at the Sony. Sungjae's only played it a couple times, but looked really solid. And with that amazing field we saw last week, Andrew, at the Century, Sungjae led the field in strokes gained tee to green, had a T5, even though he lost over 3 strokes putting. So if he keeps that ball striking going and finds a little something with the putter, Sungjae might win this week, man. I think he might be my favorite play on the board. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I look down here, and I probably price has a lot to do with it because I'm big on value. I'm kind of fearing away from Morikawa because if you're going to play Morikawa, you might as well play Webb or Harrison, just because they make more sense to me. Like I said, English might not have the resume, and Morikawa has the new guy kind of feel. So to me, they're 50-50. So if I'm going to play either one of them, I'm probably going to play Webb because he's the daddy. I love Sunjay. Like we said before, he kind of does everything right. But I'm with you. Cam Smith for me makes too much sense in this price, this field, this golf course. He's a grinder. He's the cheapest of the guys we've talked about. So if I'm rostering Cam Smith and Daniel Berger on the same team, and wouldn't have an issue with putting them 100% across the board. I know we sometimes veer away from that, but I would not have an issue with that at all.
I like all 3 of those guys a lot. Cam, Sungjae, and Berger. I think you can't go wrong there. Obviously, Webb's a terrific play. And you know how I feel about Morikawa, and we're not even really touched on Joaquin Neiman, who lost in the playoff to English. The guy's been playing lights out. Really, unfortunately, missed the Masters due to COVID, but the guy's been just sicko good lately. So I mean, you can look at Joaquin if you think he can bounce back from that playoff loss. Sometimes we see a little bit of a hangover when guys losing a playoff like that, but you have to love his ball striking. But to circle back around to Hideki last week, let's get into the nuts and bolts of that little performance. Lost 9.7 strokes putting, Andrew. I've been doing this since 2018. I think that's the worst I've ever seen. That's the worst putting week of Hideki's career. And that's absolutely horrible. I don't even know how to put it in perspective to someone that doesn't really follow strokes gained stats, but he lost almost 10 shots to the field putting last week. So just had to throw that out there. Thanks a lot, Hideki.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at tournament history too, he's top 5 in this field, man. Or no, I'm looking at salary. I'm sorry. Yeah, just forget what I just said. I just looked at the wrong. We'll cut that out. Yeah, I've never
This
seen
makes
that. I've never seen
yeah.
that either. I've never seen that either, Joe. Minus almost 10 shots to the field, not to the leader, to the field. And I mean, still shot what 500 on Sunday. So, yeah, I think we've said all we need to say about this group of guys. We love a lot of them. Wouldn't be one of these guys shoots 2,500 and wins. Wouldn't surprise us. This next group, I kind of hold the same, not necessarily value. Not you don't have the headliners, but I'm gonna draw a line now at Billy Horschel. Billy Horschel on up to answer. I really think you have the same quality of player almost all the way across the board. Horschel, Henley, Kisner. I mean Palmer, Answer. Those are really like they got grit in their stomach. Horschel is not known for being a great putter, but man, he's a grinder.
Yeah, and he's an excellent Bermuda putter,
Mhm.
which I'm kind of always looking at him on Bermuda, which he'll face this week. He's just so streaky that he's kind of tough to peg, and you can say that for several of these guys in here. Right? Ryan Palmer's been playing excellent golf, played very, very well last week. Has played really well at this golf course. I think he won here in 2010. Had a top 5 last year, even though he hit one off the face of the planet on the very last hole and kind of slowed the whole thing down. But he's playing excellent golf right now, so you want to give Ryan Palmer a look. And Kevin Kisner's got tremendous course history. We feel like this is check the box of a Kis course. It's short. It's going to kind of come down to iron play and putting. So this is one of those circle the calendar spots for Kisner. Answer's kind of in a similar boat. He's definitely not a bomber, so you feel like this is a track where he could play well. And Russell Henley, man, is a guy we rode heavily down the stretch of 2020. Kind of bombed out there in Mayakoba, I think, the last event of the calendar year. Let us down a little bit, but his ball striking was next level good to close out 2020. So, yeah, man, all these guys are certainly viable. You can kind of play the course history card with Kis and Palmer. If you want to check that box off, that's probably the direction I'd go. But I think all these guys are very, very viable targets this week in this tournament.
Yeah, my favorite player in this price range, it's got to be Ryan Palmer. I don't know if I talked about it on the podcast or after I got done recording yesterday with Jason, but I asked him. I said, "How's that dude doing this?" He seems like he's there like every other tournament. He's in the top 10, and he don't hit it as far as those guys do. He said, "Man, he's just one of them guys. He's been doing it so long that when the lights go on, he can play. No matter what kind of course you're up against, he can play." So I hate paying 9,200 for Ryan Palmer, but man, he's easy to pull for.
Yeah, we have to realize there's a lot of volatility there. I hear what you're saying, and I like him too. I like the upside. I like his grit. I like him on this golf course. His irons were phenomenal last week. Gained 6 strokes on approach at the Century last week, but you have to wonder how many people are going to be jumping off. He was 7K last week, Andrew, and now he's 92. So it might be one of those things. We see it all the time in DFS. Guy gets a huge salary bump and the ownership kind of goes, right? So if we can grab Palmer at a low ownership number this week, don't mind a bit jumping back on. But I think he's one of those guys you have to roster kind of in the back of your mind, knowing that there's maybe a miscut laying there, but there's also maybe a top 5 laying there with him. So certainly a very good GPP play.
Absolutely. The concern again is that with the miscut volatility in 9,200, you need somebody that's going to be a top 10 right there, almost guarantee. That's why we got to look at Kisner and Henley right here, I think, in this price range overall. Moving down, love me some Zach Johnson. You know that. He's a grinder. This golf course
We're getting in your wheelhouse right down through here, big guy.
That's right. Zach Johnson, love him on a golf course like this. Don't know. I'm not. 8,500 is a lot to pay up for Zach because the guy's getting a little older, but man, he's a grinder. Probably getting the same. You're probably getting the same players you get at Ryan Palmer at 9,200, guys. So, and this one's $700 less. Man, he's got good course history here, along with the next guy on the list who we love to hate, Matt Kuchar. Let's say down from here to say EVR. You look at anybody serious here really, other than those two. Maybe Brendan Todd. This golf course, maybe if he gets the putter hot. I don't know. I don't like this price range as a play. I mean, I like some players in here, but I'm not going to be playing any of them.
Yeah, it's tough. You're concerned about the upside. The only way you go here this week is really price considerations. You didn't mention, man, maybe the biggest course horse of them all there, Charles Howell III. The dude has made a living at this golf course. I was looking at his stats at this course earlier, and in his career, he's got 96 top 10 finishes in his career. 10 of them have been on this golf course. So 10% of his career top 10s have come at Sony. The dude is just unbelievably amazing at this golf course. So you can kind of throw all of his other stats out the window if you just want to go pure course history. Charles Howell III is definitely worth a look. He's made a bunch of money on this golf course, so you might want to give him a look there at 8. But yeah, the other guys kind of fit in that similar mold, Andrew. Like you said, Zach Johnson, I'm kind of interested in, surprisingly. Even though the price, I would rather see him at around 8 as well. I would feel more comfortable, but I think you have to give him a look. He's been playing some good golf. Kuchar fits this course like a glove. He's won here before, but he's just not playing good golf, man. We didn't see much of anything to get excited about last year, and he's a veteran. He can snap out of it. He can maybe figure things out over the break. If you want to go there, but I probably won't. And it's Sergio I never play. Brendan Todd, this is his kind of golf course, but I rarely roster him. But he's a guy you can give a look. And then as you start going down, man, things start thinning out. We don't have that elite field like we saw last week.
No, and yeah, you're right. It really starts thinning out as we go down. Dropping down now in the 7s, there's a lot of really, really, really talented player. I mean, a lot of vets. How's that? A lot of guys that come up in these kind of discussions as you move on down. Mark Leishman, we talking about. We see making a comeback this year. Before you get down, Brian Harmon. This golf is the Brian Harmon style. Bermuda. He loves playing on Bermuda. Guys that we really like to play, Kokrak. I mean, if he can get the putter hot, which usually does not happen, but he hits the ball so good, and this is kind of a golf course they need for that. But these are not a lot of guys that necessarily are going to jump out from a standpoint of like, man, he's got to be on your team. Other than maybe I'm kind of wanting to throw a little Snedeker in there because got good course history. And for some reason, there's usually a tournament this time in January, February. There's usually a tournament he out of nowhere finishes second in or wins, and this fits that bill.
Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of like Cal, right? I mean, the dude every year, either in Hawaii or the West Coast in the tournament, you feel the same way about Sneds. He's played great here, great course history. He's just so tough to trust right now with the ball striking, but it seems like some weeks it just clicks for him, and he putts so well that the weeks that his ball striking's working, he's got a chance to win. So, he's one of those guys you can consider down there at the bottom of the 7K range, especially this week. The 7s I feel is fairly long. I could make an argument to go with some of these guys versus, getting out in the mid 8s. Leishman, we talked about, we feel like he's trending in the right direction, going to trend back in the right direction this year. So last week, not great. Emiliano Grillo, he's always just a gross roster because of the putting, but the ball striking's been good. He's looked pretty solid in the swing season. Back-to-back top 25s at the Sony on this golf course. So you might want to give Grillo a look. And maybe my favorite play in the 7s overall is Brian Harmon. The guy's just solid, man. Played well tee to green, played well on approach, and he's played extremely well on this golf course. He's just the type of veteran guy that you can see going out and maybe grab this week, really. Don't need distance. He's very familiar with how this golf course plays. Kind of suits all his strengths. So maybe my favorite play in the 7s. Get down in the mid to lows. There's not a lot I love. I was looking at Russell Knox a little earlier. Had some pretty strong outings in the swing season, but also missed some cuts. But I think there's enough there in this field with this salary scale where you kind of have to consider him there at 74. And then it really thins out, man. Tell me who you're thinking, Andrew, as we get down the 7s. I'm looking at Jim Furyk. As gross as that sound, he's been playing well on the Champions Tour. and this is the type of track where he can still compete with these guys. So I mean, that's where we are, man. I'm looking at Jim Furyk. That's how ugly it is down
Yeah,
here.
I really wish Furyk was like 6,700. I mean, that would open up so much for that. But I mean, then probably he'd be rostered by 80%. He'd probably be 40% owned if he was that low in this field. But I'm liking Furyk. Like I said, Snedeker. I mean, you can't. I mean, we're not going all in. I mean, you want to say like somebody like Stuart Sinkwood, but maybe we already missed the peak on him, and we got to find another peak for him later on. I really, I'm a Chris Kirk lover, but he's not trending in the direction we want to see it. So I'm not liking anybody there really. I mean, I like a Leishman, like you said, but you're not going to trust him either. So it gets very hard when you get down here because we just don't know anything because they've had a month off, So I mean,
Yeah.
even Malinotti, who had a great fall, 6,900, you got to love him, but do you really got to love him because we don't know where he's at?
Yeah, you've got the unknown of. That's a great point you made. We've got the unknown of a layoff, as well having a ton that we love. You start looking at these guys' game logs. You start looking at and then you throw in the unknown of them having over a month off in a lot of cases for most guys. It is tough, and we are kind of guessing this week and kind of hoping for the best. Make educated gambles down there. I would point. You touched on Malnati. I would point to that range actually, kind of that 6,900 range. I think there's some guys there that showed us some things in the swing. We're getting a little far away from that now, but on this week where we're kind of searching, I look at that range. Doug Gim played some very good golf swing season. Mon was excellent, but tailed off towards the tail end. Austin Cook lost in a playoff at the Shriners, made a deep run. So it feels like a Harry Higgs type of course. I don't roster Higgs very often, but you could see him out there and just getting hot with the putter, maybe making a run. So yeah, man, in that 68, 69 range, I think there's some playable options, but you feel like you're good week, Andrew.
Yeah. So one thing that I know I talked to Jason offline on this. He said, watch out for Brian Gay. This is a tournament he likes to play in. This is one of his majors, as you would say, on his calendar. And he played last week. I'm leaning towards guys that played last week, just for getting those competition juices flowing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Richie Lewinsky, 6,800. I mean, don't love him, but he played last week, so there you go on that. And unfortunately, as we get a little bit lower, man, the big black eye, Will Gordon. He's got to be a hard pass on this place, ain't he?
Yeah, I mean, you look right there, man. You mentioned Brian Gay, who's kind of interesting on this golf course. Like you mentioned, it's one of the ones where he can compete. I was looking at Lahiri a little bit at 6,700. Played some pretty solid golf in the swing season. This is his type of track. But then you got some talent really there, man. At like 66, you got Will Gordon, Luke List, Keith Mitchell, Vaughn Taylor, guys that we know in their career have had upside. Some not so recently. Yeah, kind of always want to give Keith Mitchell a look on Bermuda, but the guy's game's just been bad. But that circles back to around, what have these guys been working on for the past month? Are they ready to turn a new leaf? Have they found something? It's kind of tough. We're going off performances from 2-3 months ago. So, I mean, there's some talent down there. When you get into the Gordon, those Luke List guys that are tremendous ball strikers with upside, but it just all comes back to their GPP plays. They're say dart throws, but it's guys we're just kind of rostering and hoping for some upside that they've flashed in the past, but not recently.
Yeah, I'm struggling this week with our last pick of the day. With our heart play here. Anybody else you want to talk about before we get into that, Joe? We didn't really, because there's really not much to talk about. You get below 6,400, there ain't nothing to talk about.
Yeah, there's just not much down there, man.
Yeah.
I've been a big Wesley Brown fan. Kind of pumped him a lot. He's let us down the last couple of times out. So other than him, there's not, unless you get into kind of these old school vets like You know, we mentioned with Furyk, but you might look at a guy like a Jerry Kelly or somebody like that, a guy that's playing on the Champions Tour, that's played this golf really well. Scott Brown, I kind of looked at a little bit. Even Davis Love the third, who I think had a seventh here a couple of years ago, or a top 10 a couple of years ago. But guys like that, man, I mean, that's where we are this week. But other than that, there's just not anything I love down there this week.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna go with my heart play of the week this week. Here at our last session, we're gonna find out where our heart is this week on this tournament field. I'm gonna throw just a couple value plays real way because I want to say Harris English, Webb Simpson, but I mean, who really wants to take an 8-1 and 11-1 favorite in a tournament, or whatever. So I'm just gonna throw two names out there, actually three. No, I'll stick with two. Huge value on all these guys, on these two guys. Mark Leishman, 7,900. If you had to put a gun to my head and say the heart play, that's him, 7,900. Brian Gay, 6,700. Those two plays I love when it comes to price versus the field, if that makes sense. Stroke gains, Draftkings style. How's that? That's where my heart is this week.
I like it.
I can't really call a victory out there. I mean, I like Kisner, Adams. I mean, Ryan Palmer, Webb Simpson, Harris English, Morikawa. I like all those guys. So I don't know. I'm just gonna stick with a couple value plays on the heart.
Yeah, I really, I really like the board, and that's kind of what makes this a frustrating slate. We do this early in the week, so it's one of those things where I'm hopeful somebody kind of pops up for me as the week progresses. But right now, I love all the guys at the top of the board, and just can't really find anybody to pair them with to get them in there. But my heart says Sung Jae. Guy played amazing tee to green like it. If he finds the putter at all, I think we could see him fighting for something come Sunday. So heart play says Sung Jae, and down the sevens, I really like Brian Harmon.
Brian Harmon, there you go. All right, Joe. This has been our edition for the Sony Open. Our Titans lose. Oh, I know what we had forgot. How about Rotoballer? What we got going on in 2021 Rotoballer, babe?
Yeah, man, we're mentioned last week that Spencer, my guy Spencer's taking care of showdown articles now. We added that to the premium package this year. Went really, really well, man. All of our subs, we got a ton of great feedback on Spencer's showdown articles. So we hope you'll sign up for Rotoballer Premium and check that out. You can use promo code NICE, N-I-C-E, and get 10% off right now.
There you go, folks. Use this promo code NICE, NICE, at rotoballer.com. Get your 1-year subscription for 10% off. All right, man. My name's Andrew Putters. This is Joe Nicely. Thanks, rotoballer.com. And you have listened to the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast.
I've already hit 3 in the lake. It's gonna dry.